I mean, what other friends does Fenton have?
Walter and Perry.
Hello, best friend Brenbrens, and welcome back to Season 3 of Rewatching Home Movies, a weekly watch-along podcast where three friends break down the 1999 animated series Home Movies. My name's Tim, and I'm obsessed with home movies.
My name's Adele, and I'm a home movies newbie.
And my name is Marcin, and I've never seen home movies.
Home Movies Season 3, Episode 1, titled Shore Leave. Original air date August 11, 2002 on Adult Swim, written by Brendan Small, Bill Broaddus, and cast, directed by Lauren Bouchard, produced by Carl Adams. Synopsis for this episode: Eric enrolls Melissa in the Fairy Princesses. Meanwhile, Brendan gets invited to spend the weekend with Fenton. That's it.
So usually when you turn on the episode, you say, "Hey, look away, Marcin." And this time I did, and I just saw you like click it, and then for a split second I saw the title. So I was like, "Shore Leave, what the fuck does that mean?" And then it opens up, obviously. But then that's the only
reference.
Yeah, I'm trying in my head to kind of connect it to the plots of the story, and I can't.
Right.
It's over my
It's
head.
just the premise that they are, the opening movie is three sailors on shore leave.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is, and there you go. And we are going to jump into this, the first episode of Season 3. But before we do that, why don't we jump into the creative corner, shall we? The creative corner, of course. Anything creative we are consuming, producing, whatever that we'd like to bring to light. Now, guys, I got a confession to make.
What?
Kind of kicking myself for locking in Bob for the entire second season.
Yeah.
I think that was a bit much.
Yeah.
I think we're going to do some one and dones.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, he was really intimidating just sitting there in silence the entire time.
Yeah. I couldn't tell if he was looking into my soul or dozing off.
I wish he was just asleep. Sometimes his eyes were just open and he wasn't even breathing. I was like, do we have to stop the podcast?
Yeah. So we're going to have a rotating cast of characters to introduce our creative corner. So for this one, I wanted to go big. So please count Orlick.
Creative Corner. Doodly doo.
First creative corner of Season 3. Who would like to go for? You know what? I want to go first, please.
Okay,
Is that
all right. That's
all right.
fine.
Mine. My first creative corner of this season is a video game. Please do not read into the title of the video game too much, but it is a game I've been obsessed with lately called 7 Days to Die.
Hell yeah.
It is a zombie survival video game. It has been out for years and years and years. It's very simple. Day-night cycle, but the caveat is on the 7th day there is a blood moon and the zombies just like come out in full force and raged. Yep, it's like your basic crafting survival type game. I've got a couple friends that have played a little bit with me, but it is by and large a scary ass game. Like genuinely, I'll be playing and I'll be like, oh my God. And Adele's like, what's wrong? I'm like, sorry, 7 days to die. It's just normal 7 days to die shit. You're like chopping at a tree and turn around and there's a fucking jump scare zombie popping out at you and shit. But yes, I have been obsessed with it. It is very fun. If you are in tune to video games at all, this game was in beta for like 10 years. And they recently released like the official alpha 1.0 version. So I played this game probably like 6 or 7 years ago on PS4, but they couldn't update it up to a certain point, so they just kind of stopped updating it. But now I've got it on my little Steam Deck. I play it religiously. I love it, and it gives me so much anxiety and scares the shit out of me pretty regularly. So yeah, highly recommended. 7 Days to Die.
Nice.
That's like when I first found Five Nights at Freddy's before it became a meme, but like it was genuinely like, oh, this is fun, and then jump scare.
Yeah.
When it comes to zombie video games, though, there's so many that it's hard to like pick through the pile and find the good ones. Like I played H1Z1 for a while, and it just trash. It's just a trash zombie game.
Yeah.
What's that one zombie game where you gotta like type in order to kill the zombies? You
I
know
think
what
it
I'm
was
talking
called like Typing of the Dead
about? Yes.
or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where they're coming at you and you got to type the words before they get to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would die immediately.
Yeah.
I suck at typing.
I mean, that's good for like, that's actually helpful when it teaches
Right,
you how to
yeah.
do keyboard stuff.
Yeah. I think that was like Mario teaches typing, but for teenagers. So, but yeah, 7 Days to Die. I played on PC. It's out on PS5 and whatever the Xbox version of PS5 is right now. I don't know, like Series X1, S, Series 3.
3000.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also cross-platform. So, like, if you're playing it on PS5, you can play with people on PC and vice versa. So,
Sick.
yeah, I'm trying to get people to play with because, like I said, it's super scary to play by myself, and I need people to help me. But it's a lot of fun. And I have been very obsessed with it lately, and it's a good one. 7 Days to Die. Highly recommended.
Hell yeah. You're good.
Oh.
My creative, I'm going to go next.
Okay.
My creative corner is a YouTube channel, and it is called Satan's Guide to the Bible. Now, before you all leave with that title, let me explain. It's like a PBS style animation where Satan is talking to kids like at Bible camp, and he's explaining the plot holes of the Bible. And then there's a TV, and on the TV it will be flipped to live action, and it will be actually like biblical scholars that have studied the Bible and break it down and as to why the church teaches us the wrong stuff to kind of keep us in the congregation. Just a little taste of it. There's all these scholars were saying that some of the, I think one of them wanted to become a priest, and then they got there, and then they decided not to be a priest because of all the lies that you find out when you go to seminary and become a priest. Essentially, he said that if he were to be honest to this congregation, he would have no congregation there. And it's just all these like really good nuggets, all these debunk of like shit that like they taught us, and it's all lies and shit. So if you want to go watch something that feels lighthearted but you're actually learning a lot, I would recommend that.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
There's been even more so recently, a lot of examples of like Christian values being told to people who are, I mean, let's be real, fake Christians, and them taking like huge offense to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's literally in the book that you claim that you worship and love and live by.
Right.
I mean, as people who have listened to our Moral Oral episode, I think they would understand we all have our own sets of religious trauma. But I understand if people believe in religion and believe in the Bible, specifically Jesus' teachings, where he says, be nice. Just like, you can boil everything that Jesus said down to one thing, which is be kind. Yep. And if you follow that, good. I'm very proud of you. A lot of people have a hard time with that, but just the Bible itself. Like, I've read the Bible a bunch of times, and if you really look at it through a different lens, it helps you understand real reality, and that this is just not it.
Yes.
And so I appreciate that there's something out there that is easily accessed, really like shows real evidence of it, like animated. It's lighthearted. It's not trying to be like, you're wrong in people's face, because no one really responds to that.
No. Yeah. Nobody changes unless they want to.
Right.
You know. But yeah, to go off of what you just said, like the golden rule that Jesus taught was to just love your neighbor as yourself. Like those go even, I mean, the 10 Commandments, whatever. But it's supposed to be even more important than the 10 Commandments. And I feel like a lot of people have lost that. So maybe just take a time to watch that, maybe look in the mirror a little bit and go about your life.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah,
it's okay.
All right. I'm wrong often.
I want to be wrong often. Like, it's not a competition.
Right.
What is the name of the YouTube channel again?
It's called Satan's Guide to the Bible.
I will be watching that.
Yeah, it's really well done.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, have ya?
HE double hockey sticks, Tim.
Sorry. Nice. That was a very good creative corner.
Thanks.
Very good.
All right.
So I will be going next. My creative corner. My favorite director is David Lynch, and recently he's passed away. And I had a lot of emotions about it. I had a lot of feelings about it. A lot of people don't really engage with David Lynch's films anymore because he's not prolific in the theater experience anymore. It's about like Marvel movies, it's about IP, it's about this, that, but whatever. But David Lynch is a true artist and someone that when I watch his films, I really learn something from them in ways that people don't express anymore, in ways that people don't engage with themselves. But I really, really appreciated David's work. So I actually prepared. I didn't when I started this, I didn't expect it to turn into a eulogy, but it turned into a eulogy. So I'm just gonna read it out. When I first watched his movies or Twin Peaks, I hated it. I hated how it wasn't straightforward and backwards. But after years of sticking in my head and thinking about it over and over, I fell in love with his work. David Lynch is the true artist of cinema, wanting people to truly think about his work and interpret it like a painting. The way he equates his work as dreams has inspired me and countless others in more ways than anyone can fathom. My favorite band, Hers, talked at length about watching Twin Peaks and how it inspired their second album, but also allowed Stephen and Auden to bond as friends. I owe most, if not all, of my work to Lynch and how he pushed for an absurd view of the world, the balance of both good and evil and the beauty in between. The story and project I've dedicated the most work to by far is Puzzle Valley. It is a town and story highly inspired by Twin Peaks. I could listen to David Lynch talk for hours about how he fell in love with the characters of Twin Peaks and how much he adored Laura Palmer, every facet of her, both the light and the dark of her character. I had a very similar time with Puzzle Valley and Penny Popular. At first, I felt so weird and ashamed of thinking of these characters as real, but they are. They are real to me, and I know for a fact that David Lynch would equate the feelings he had for Twin Peaks as falling in love with a dream he had. His work wasn't sterile or clean or perfect. Watching his movies always made me feel like I could make something from beyond without the need to look or feel or sound like how Hollywood wants it to. Watching a film by Lynch is an opportunity to really sink into the cinema of his projects and engage with not only the film, but yourself, to see who you really are. David Lynch changed my view on art and life in general, and I will be forever grateful for him and Jack Nance for keeping that stupid haircut for 7 years. David Lynch was a beautiful soul filled with integrity and love for both the good and the evil of the world. The unknowns of existence was his playground, while others in this world are afraid of the unknown, afraid to be curious, because they fear that the second they understand the true absurdity of our existence, that they'll have to look inwards to decide who they want to be. I'm going to start quoting him now. Inside we are ageless, and when we talk to ourselves, it's the same age of the person we were talking to when we were little. It's the body that is changing around that age's center. David was not one of these incurious people. He was thankful for every blemish of our reality. When you see an aging or rusted bridge, you are seeing nature and man working together. If you paint over a building, there is no more magic to that building. But if it is allowed to age, then man has built it and nature has added into it. It's so organic. He loved existence and saw nothing wrong with it. If everyone was more like him, I truly believe we would be on an incredibly different path, headed to a world of higher thinking and understanding. But instead, like everyone in the world right now, I'm beyond terrified. Everything feels like a nightmare filled with incomprehensible horrors. What type of advice could he give to the world right now? Don't fight the darkness. Don't even worry about the darkness. Turn on the light and the darkness goes. Turn up that light of pure consciousness. Negativity goes. The mystery of existence is what keeps us dreaming of so many absurd and wonderful ideas. It's what David was constantly in love with. He didn't want to know the answers because that would ruin the mystery, the magic of the unknown. It's better not to know so much about what things mean or how they might be interpreted, or you'll be too afraid to let things keep happening. And yet he kept searching, as we all should keep searching and discovering ourselves. There's more to life than the black and white goals the world has told us that we must achieve. We are more than that. We are stardust. We're all like detectives in life. There's something at the end of the trail that we're all looking for. David Lynch, we were lucky to have you. I was lucky to have you. It's hard to find anyone who watches anything you've done without coming away with some curiosity for the world. Thank you for sticking to your guns to make art and not something that sells. Thank you for showing artists that you don't need to make art to make money. Stay true to yourself. Let your voice ring out and don't let anybody fiddle with it. Never turn down a good idea, but never take a bad idea. And meditate. You were a filmmaker, a painter, a dreamer, and you understood that in order for us to make great art, we need time. If you want to get 1 hour of good painting in, you have to have 4 hours of uninterrupted time. You understood that we needed to take care of ourselves mentally. People might bring up Vincent van Gogh as an example of a painter who did great work in spite of or because of his suffering. I like to think that Van Gogh would have been even more prolific and even greater if he wasn't so restricted by the things tormenting him. I don't think it was pain that made him so great. I think his paintings brought him whatever happiness he had. David, you were a man of dreams and nightmares, but you were thankful for both. These so-called bleak times are necessary to go through in order to get to a much, much better place. And rest assured, these are very bleak times. But I also believe that this is a moment filled with hope for a brighter future, that this terrifying nightmare we've all been living in we can finally wake up from. If we were all more curious of the world, if we were all more understanding, and if we were all more thankful for the cracks and unpleasant moments of our existence. As Lynch says, he is not good with words. His films speak a different language than anyone can interpret in a meaningful way for themselves. I'll leave us with one final quote that we all need to hear. Keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. You told us once a day, give yourself a present. Don't plan it. Don't wait for it. Just let it happen. Teaching us to be kind to ourselves. And you've told others with clouded souls to fix their hearts or die. Teaching us to accept others without question. Thank you, David Lynch, for showing countless people how to dream. Thank you for teaching the many how to be curious. I wish you could have seen my film, but I know you will be in my dreams creating blue skies and yellow sunshine. Through the darkness of future past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, walk with me. P.S. You were the only good thing about the Cleveland show.
That was beautiful, Marson, I must say. That was really well written, and your impression is amazing.
I very much appreciate that. I was worried if that was going to get too annoying after a point.
No.
Beautiful.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, do you guys want to do this, the first episode of season 3?
Hell yeah.
Yes, I really, really do.
I'm just going to say it now. I fucking love this episode.
It's very good, and I think this has been an episode you've been pointing to for a while.
It may be, yes. This episode did have commentary, some fun little tidbits I learned before we get this party started. Brendan Small, the person, actually moved to L.A. The show is made in, like, the Boston area. He moved to L.A. between seasons 2 and 3 because it would be, like, months before they'd hear back from Adult Swim whether the show was getting picked up again or not. So he literally moved to L.A. to start pitching other shows, and they got the call about season 3, and he's like, uh-oh. So I thought that was kind of funny. A couple other things. We will get to them when we get to them, I think. I'll say this one, too. Why not? Lauren, it's for the commentary for this episode, it's just Lauren Bouchard and Brendan. They said the animation definitely leveled up this season. And, I mean, from the jump.
Oh, yeah.
It did. And Khaki Jones, who was the one who was responsible of pulling home movies out of the death grips of UPN and getting it on Adult Swim, they would kind of touch base in between seasons, and they said her input was almost always more kids, more McGurk. That's what this show needs, is more stuff with the kids, more stuff with McGurk. Let's go. So they definitely, I think, nailed it with this episode.
I really do think they did. I think there's a very big moment at the end where I was like, yeah, this is what the show should be. Yeah.
This is such a great start to season 3 that I feel like it's just going to get better from here, and I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to it.
I feel like I've been saying that for like 26 episodes.
I mean, even David St. Angelo, when you were doing the interview, he was like, oh, season 3 is the best one.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, but I'm also like, oh, man, what do I got in store here?
Yeah. We got some bangers in store. So, okay, this first episode of season 3, we open up and we're inside of a movie. There's a quick glimpse of a piece of paper, and we see that this movie is called Anchors and Away. And then we go underneath. So Anchors and Away we go, with the pun being on away. AWEIGH. That means like to bring an anchor above. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that one.
Funny. We're funny. So we see Brendan and Jason. They're dressed up like traditional sailors, but then we see Melissa's character too. I guess she could be a sailor, but she has like an eye patch and is definitely talking like a pirate. So Brendan says that, hey, looky at us. We're just 3 sailors on shore leave. And Melissa's character asked what they should do. Brendan says he wants to do sketches of birds, and Jason said he would like to check out some antique furniture shops.
Hell yeah.
Melissa calls them a couple of liver lily sissies and says that she's got a better idea. They can punch out some scuckers and pee out the window.
I like the little hand movement she did for when she was saying pee.
Yeah.
I looked away for a split second when that happened. And I was like, what was that? Because I saw the animation. Like, I looked back and she's like putting it away. I was like, oh, whoa.
It's so funny because in commentary, they're like, oh, and this is the first time Melissa uses her hand to fake peeing. And they're like, oh, Melissa, the animated character. Like, actually, Melissa used to do that all the time.
The first time, does she do it again?
No, I don't think so. They were just making a joke that like, oh,
That's
yeah.
funny.
So Melissa proceeds to beat the crap out of Brendan and Jason. And that's when we pause the scene and pull back to reveal that we have Eric and Melissa watching this this movie. Eric tells Melissa that she'll always be his little baby girl no matter what. But he's afraid one day he's going to blink and she's going to be a man.
See, I was at first I thought Eric was going to be like, hey, we need to talk about your anger issues because she started beating the shit out of them. But then he started turning into it like, you're too masculine, Melissa.
See, this scene kind of confused me a little bit because he talks about how he refers to it as gender bending and how, it's a part of life and how he experimented with it as well. And then he turns around and he's like, and I also signed you up for this fairy camp. So it's like, are you for it or are you not for it, Eric?
I think he was just trying to simultaneously say like, hey, if this is what is happening right now, if you want to go through maybe like a tomboy phase or whatever, that's fine. I do support that. But simultaneously, I am going to introduce these other aspects into your life that maybe will help.
I related heavily to Melissa in this episode. Yeah. Only having older brothers and you're just naturally more of a tomboy.
Sure.
And then having adults being like, actually, you need to be more like a little girl and less like a little boy. And it's just like, it's very confusing for a child.
Absolutely.
When you're just trying to play and have fun.
Well, and even more so because, like you said, Eric says he went through a whole gender bending thing. I even put in my notes, go Eric. He tells Melissa it's nothing to be ashamed of. And in fact, for him, it was great. So,
and not to like jump ahead or anything, but like at one point he's talking to Paula about like, are you ever worried about Brendan not having like a masculine figure in his life? And she's like, no. And it's clear that he worries about Melissa not having a feminine figure in her life. So I feel like that's more like where he was coming from, where he wants her to have like the full spectrum.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I hear someone say gender bend, it sounds like, when they used to say metrosexual back in the early 2000s because people were, used hygiene.
When I hear gender bend, I think of cosplaying.
Yeah.
Because it's like you just take like a male character and make them female for your cosplay.
Vice versa. Yeah. Where I think back then in the early 2000s, gender bend was just kind of toying with the idea of wearing dresses and stuff like that. And it sounded like for him, he had a grand old time. He had a lot of fun in his gender bending phase.
I feel like now it would be considered being gender fluid.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
The way that he was going about it was very like pushy, obviously. So at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, especially because he kept like making like, oh, you remember when we got the bird tested for gender? Like you remember that? And the bird's not there anymore. And there was a lot of weird things going on. So I was very questioning about Eric until later on when he was having that conversation with Paula.
I definitely did not appreciate that he was all like, does this sound like something you'd be interested in? And she's like, no. And he's all like, too bad, you're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt the same way about Paula, but we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty normal for a kid. I was signed up for Cub Scouts. I don't remember being like, I want to do this. It was just something that happened.
Yeah.
I was signed up for baseball. I'm sure there were points where my folks checked in and like, hey, do you still want to do this? And I definitely hit a point where I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't have to, so.
Oh, they checked in with you?
Yeah, my parents did.
He had good parents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fair.
I shouldn't say.
I was gonna say because I also was a Cub Scout. Do you know what is it called?
Pack?
Well, I know what pack were you?
Pack 444.
I was pack 101.
Nice.
Damn, those are easily to remember.
Yeah. What level did you get to?
I did not get to. I think I just did Cub Scouts. I never got to like Boy Scouts.
Oh.
Boy Scouts.
You never had to like cross over the bridge.
I don't think so.
Oh, that was
no.
Eagle Scouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always
no,
thought
I
I was gonna do that until like wrestling came into my life.
I feel so bad saying this, but I stopped because even as a kid, seeing like the adults doing like Eagle Scouts, I'm like, nerds.
Dude.
Even though I was doing Cub Scouts,
Dude.
I was the nerds that they were like teaching.
Because it's like, oh yeah, let's whittle and then like make pine card derbies where it's like which one gets down there the fastest, and it's like I don't care. I just want my car to look cool. And
I remember my brother doing that.
yeah.
I did.
I
Pine
was
Card Derby.
in the Girl Scouts, but I didn't make it to the Girl Scout level because I was too young. I was a brownie.
Right.
Yeah. I remember I got a badge for cleaning a porta potty.
Oh, I hate that for you. I'm so sorry.
My brother, Michael, was furious. It was the first time he like ever stuck up for me. He's like, you go back to day camp tomorrow and you refuse to clean that porta potty. And I was like, I don't think I have a choice.
Oh no, I would refuse 100%. Like for me, it was like there's tigers, and then there was wolves, and then there was bears, and then I got to the fourth one, and I never understood it because I never heard of this animal, but it was a weeblo. And I hated that because when they found that out at school, they were like, "Ah, yeah, they blow." Like that was the bit. But I was always jealous of Girl Scouts because we had to sell popcorn. No one fucking wants popcorn.
It was expensive popcorn.
Yeah,
too.
it was. I sold so many boxes, and they gave me a pocket knife. That was it.
Wow.
The only thing I look forward to in Cub Scouts is because we would have, like our little den meeting things, but then there would be like an overall, like in this big hall, like all the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, all of them. And around Christmas time, they'd have a guy show up dressed as Santa and hand out presents. And that was the only time I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. But all the other times, I'm like, do this shit again?
I just liked playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards after the meetings were done.
Well, yeah, Melissa, against her own will, gets signed up for the Fairy Princesses.
Justice for Melissa.
I don't want to spoil it, but like it said the FPC, so it was like, the Fairy Princess Club, and then later it's like, oh.
Well, the next thing we have Coach McGurk. It's mid-conversation with Melissa. Melissa's saying she can't be there now that she's a fairy princess, so she goes on to explain she's going to miss a few practices and probably a few games. Brendan even chimes in and asks, so we're off for this weekend in the movie? And Melissa says, yeah, afraid so. Coach tells her this looks bad because she is going to be hanging out with a bunch of whiny babies in stupid uniforms. And that's when we kind of get a background shot of all the soccer players in their stupid uniforms and Perry sitting on the ground crying like a baby.
Perry.
So Melissa tells him again it's supposed to be fun, and Coach asks, a bunch of stupid girls gathering together playing hopscotch and skipping rope is supposed to be fun? And then he's like, oh yeah, that actually does sound pretty fun.
There was no hopscotch. There was no jump rope.
Nope.
Brendan tells Coach, chill out. It's just a club for girls. And Coach is like, then you should join. And Brendan's like, I can't because I'm not a girl. And Coach says, that's a laugh. Melissa tells Coach to leave Brendan alone, and Coach asks Melissa, what are you going to do about it? Fly in the air and sprinkle fairy dust on me? Turn me into a little kitty cat? And then, like, genuinely low-key, he's like, can you do that? And Melissa responds, not yet. So Melissa excuses herself, and Coach goes on to tell Brendan women are insane. You get them together in a group, and they're insane. They turn into animals, and they eat their own. And then he's like, you know what I'm saying, Brendan? And Brendan's like, yeah. Nope.
I saw the look in Brendan's eyes when he heard McGurk start talking about women. He's like, oh no.
Here we go again.
Every time. He didn't just say women are insane. He went, women are insane. Women are insane. Like, he just kept repeating it. McGurk, calm down. You're going to lose the game anyway.
The more times he repeats it, the more true it becomes to him.
He just has to tell himself over and over. That's why women don't date him.
Oh man, McGurk reminded me of my older brother so much in this scene. Just because, like I said before, like when you're a little girl who's a tomboy and the adults want you to be a little girl, and then my brothers who were used to me being a tomboy were like, "Oh, look at you being a little girl right now. That's embarrassing for you." Oh shit!
What do you got? These dolls? Why don't you be a cool person? Hang out with these action figures I got.
Well, it's the end of practice. Brendan seems to be waiting for his ride, and that's when everybody's favorite, Fenton Muley, approaches him and asks him if they're still on for this weekend.
No. When that happened, because I thought it was just going to be a Melissa episode, and when that happened, I was like, no.
Of all the people to show up.
You know we got to have an A, B, and even sometimes C plot.
Was there a C plot here?
Yeah, I'd say kinda, I guess. Like Jason kinda getting everything together for the plan might have been a C plot. Just
Maybe.
Paula and Eric.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a very loose C plot.
Yeah.
It seems like two different, like, half C plots that they kind of put together, but they
Right.
don't really connect.
Right.
Yeah. So Fenton says Brendan was supposed to get back to him about spending the weekend at his house. You know, hanging out, making video films. Brendan says he's still mowing it over. And Fenton asks how much time he needs. Brendan says he's still trying to figure out his weekend and starts saying Melissa and I. And Fenton immediately interrupts him. He's like, Melissa's going to be gone all weekend.
Who told him?
Even Brian was like, you know this?
You know that. Fenton tells him he doesn't want to spend the weekend with him. Just tell him. And Brendan's like, it's not necessarily that. It's just that we have no reason not to sleep at our own houses.
I've had friends like this who are like, I want to hang out with you. I just don't want to sleep over at your house. And then they end up calling their mom when they actually they say that they're going to do a sleepover because they don't want to sleep there. I don't get it personally, but I know a lot of people who are like this.
I
Yeah.
feel that. Especially for the whole weekend.
That's
2
what I
whole
thought,
nights.
too. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's too much.
I genuinely thought Fenton was going to have like an ulterior motive in this episode because, like, why does he want Brendan to stay over at the weekend so badly?
So they can hang out,
because-
make video film.
Because all of a sudden they're friends out of nowhere, even though Brendan made a video for his birthday that was essentially saying he was a shitty person. I don't understand where this need for friendship has come from.
I mean, what other friends does Fenton have?
Walter and Perry. hate, Fenton, hate.
Yeah, by the end of this episode. Fun, can we have a naked sleepover too?
Oh, golly.
Brendan says there's no reason that they don't just sleep at their own houses. And Fenton says no reason. How about their friends? Fenton tells him it's a one-time offer this weekend only. He gets it really into Brendan's face. And he's like, come on, me and you, hanging out, horsing around, video films.
Video films.
I love it. Fenton tells Brendan to think about it. And Brendan gives a very unenthusiastic, he's like, yep. And immediately Fenton is like, hey, who am I? Yup. And Brendan's like, I don't know, me, I guess. And Fenton says, yup.
Did you guys know any Fentons growing up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did, and
Yeah.
they were all so lonely,
No.
and they all wanted, but like you're like, oh, I'll hang out with them, and then they wouldn't stop being a dick. It's like,
Never again.
oh,
Yeah. No, I mean, I've hosted a couple sleepovers and I've done a couple sleepovers, but I mean, they were with like friends I was genuinely friends with, and it was like a multiple time thing, and we actually had fun. And
you never had your parents like sign you up for a play date, essentially.
I don't think so. I feel like
Tim
when
was popular and well known.
No, not that necessarily. I just feel like if I told my friends, like, I don't want to hang out with them, they were just like, okay, yeah, cool, we respect that. It
You're
was,
like, thank you for the consideration, Tim.
I get to go to one of Tim's parties.
They're legendary. I won't say what I want to say, though.
so the next scene, I've said this so many times with home movies as we progress, but this episode especially, the pacing for this episode is so, literally Fenton and Brendan have that conversation. The next scene is Brendan coming home. Paula's on the phone mid-conversation with Fenton's mom. So Brendan walks in and yeah, Paula's mid-conversation saying there's no reason Brendan can't stay the weekend with Fenton. And also, Josie's back.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second I saw her, I was like, there she is.
Was she in season 2 at all?
Yes, 1 or 2 episodes, because they mention in commentary in season 2 that her head shrunk in season
Okay.
2. I'm going to say maybe the first couple episodes we might have seen her once or twice, but yeah, there's probably 8 or 9 episodes straight we did not see her at
Damn.
all.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome back.
Yes. So she's back.
Someone called like DCFS. She's been neglected the entire time.
Yep.
Her head is shrinking.
from lack of nutrients, probably.
Yes.
So Brendan immediately is like telling his mom, no. He doesn't really want to stay the weekend at Fenton's. Paula is not paying attention to him and just carrying on with the phone conversation, saying Brendan usually sleeps in his underpants, but I'll make sure he brings the pajamas with the little feet. The entire time Brendan is saying, no, Mom, no. Paula finally gets off the phone and asks Brendan how his day was, and then even says, you'll never guess who that was.
I don't understand why Paula... I feel like Fenton's mom is like, oh, he would really like it if you did. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Playing the
okay.
pity card.
Yeah.
Right. Well, she shows up to talk to Brendan for Fenton's party. So I think Mrs. Muley knows that her son is insufferable. Probably doesn't have too many friends.
Yeah.
I also don't think it's just Fenton who's a little insufferable.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know if you guys remember or... Because there were certain parts of the interview with David I told you to fast forward because there were season 3 spoilers.
I re-listened to it the other day when I was at work, and when it got to that point where you started, I was like, no! And I had to run to the other side of the room and like fast forward.
But David brings up how he had a Fenton in his life, the person who like their mom would call his mom and set up these hangouts and sleepovers and stuff like that. He's like, so that stuff was so easy to animate. He's like, because I lived it. I had a Fenton. The next scene, kudos to the animators. I love this scene because this is the scene with Brendan, Jason, and Melissa where they're doing like a walkie-talkie test. It's split into 3 sections and it's split horizontally. And it's really cool because all of them have their own sections. And when they talk in the walkie-talkie, their section kind of lights up. Mm-hmm. They even say in commentary for a lot of that conversation, you're seeing like eyes. They didn't have to animate their mouths for all of that because a lot of it was just faces, like close up of faces. So, but it was just a really well done scene because the dialogue itself is very funny. But I think having that scene where it's split into 3 sections with each of them having their own section just really kind of like the cherry on top made that scene really cool.
It's also just very unique.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Brendan is in the middle, and he's laying on his bed, and we see that happy little garden gnome laying on his bed. The first one this episode.
So it's official that he has a canon gnome like that
Yes.
he keeps in his bed.
The canonical bed gnome, yes. Mark it.
I also just love that they were on walkie-talkies and like, oh, guys, we got to keep on these walkie-talkies. And I just think about our cell phones that we just have. Let's just throw them away. Let's just get the
Yeah.
walkie-talkies again.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit older. So when I was like 14, 15, like this was how like me and 3 of my friends in our neighborhood communicated was with walkie-talkies. And it was wild because I was kind of at one end of the neighborhood. My buddy was kind of a center point, and then we had a third friend even further. And so I could relay a message to my buddy. He could relay it to the next person over. We could go back and forth.
Damn.
But yeah, we used to get up to all kinds of shenanigans with those walkie-talkies.
They were lighting the beacons.
Yes.
Like, deliver this message over there.
Exactly.
All of my friends were like 20 minutes away, so I tried getting the walkie-talkie situation, but like I couldn't reach them.
Right.
But that sounds so adventurous and whimsical as a kid.
It was really fun. I mean, we were just like, okay, let's ride bike. Like, we were big on the nighttime bike rides.
Damn.
Like, that was our jam.
That's dope, dude.
All right. So Brendan is telling them they need to do a walkie-talkie test to make sure these babies work. Jason is asking if anyone hears him, but doesn't realize he needs to take his thumb off the button in order to hear everyone else's reply. Again, this scene is genuinely hilarious. It's pretty much all 3 of them just constantly asking if they can be heard. At one point, it finally breaks down where Melissa asks who's talking now, and it just keeps going back and forth where it's like, it's Melissa, it's Brendan, it's Jason, it's Melissa. I really like that scene. Brendan hits home that if Melissa's going to be at the Fairy Princesses and he's stuck at Fenton's, they need to make sure they know how to use the walkie-talkies. And the scene ends with Brendan asking if anyone can hear me now, and Jason yelling, yes, we can hear you, Melissa.
That tickled me. It's Jason. He goes from being like really mean to Melissa to being all like, later in the episode, he's like, I'm your man. And it's like, pick a lane, Jason.
See, and this is where I'm at. It's like, who are you?
Well, it's almost like at the beginning of the show, they like weren't as good friends.
Yes.
And now as the show's going on, they're becoming better friends.
They're warming up to each other, slow but sure.
Not to jump ahead a little bit, but yeah, Jason was kind of the only one she could turn to.
Yeah.
Brendan was tied up with Fenton, so it's Jason had to be the man with the plan. So now we cut to the fairy princess meeting. They have the head of the fairy princess. She says hello, and I think they just say hello, lady. Mm-hmm. So I just have her down as Miss Lady for the rest of the breakdown. So when I'm talking about Miss Lady, I'm talking about the head of the fairy princesses. And yes, it was even pointed out, she was voiced by John McGurk. She was voiced by John Benjamin, who is the voice of John McGurk and Jason.
But even like the character style definitely like gave McGurk vibes, just like the build, the head shape, the face.
The way that she talked to Melissa.
Yeah, the advice that she was eventually would be giving Melissa. Yeah.
Exactly. And they said in commentary when they wrote for, again, Miss Lady, as I'm going to call her, they didn't know who was going to do the voice. They just wrote the character, they wrote the lines. And then they're like, well, John Benjamin is here. Let's see what he does with it. And yeah, I like this Miss Lady. She is the worst.
She is the worst. Also my doodle this week.
Nice. I know this is a long shot and probably is not going to happen, but I really want Miss Lady and McGurk to have a scene where they interact at some point.
That'd be so good.
I would like to see the behind the scenes of just John Benjamin.
Him talking to himself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the way that David St. Angelo in the interview was going on about, like, you would love to see how he would just, like, talk shit to Melissa and then, like, grab at his nose and then he suddenly talked in Jason's voice and it's just bouncing off of each other.
Yeah.
It's like watching a game of Michael Jordan in the 90s.
So Miss Lady introduces Melissa, and in unison, the fairy princesses say, hello, Melissa, 3 times.
Yeah.
And Melissa is very weirded out.
I did think that the fairy prince. I thought this was just going to be like a whole like girly, like this is about being a girl type thing. And then when they started speaking like that, I'm like, oh, they're in a cult. Like, that's okay.
Miss Lady asks who wants to have some fun, and everyone in unison says yay, and Miss Melissa says yay. But you can tell she is not feeling it. Already, we're at Fenton's house, and we see Brendan and Fenton are about to make a movie. Fenton's dressed up as a doctor. Brendan begins the scene by telling the doctor he can't feel anything on his body except his face. And immediately Fenton is just over it. He's like, I'm not the doctor.
I am Bullrog, and I have lots of powers.
Yes. He says he's now a guy with superhuman strength, and he's come to carry away Brendan, his paralyzed friend. His best friend, his paralyzed best friend. He has superhuman strength, and he's handsome. More handsome than Brendan.
And then he like weirdly almost takes his shirt off.
Yeah, when he goes to like lift him up, he's just like lifting his shirt up.
Fenton wants to play D&D. That's what he wants.
That's when Brendan yells cut and asks why his character has to be more handsome. Fenton says he can also fly, and he thought that the doctor scenario sucked. Brendan tries to restart the scene, and Fenton throws out that he's also president, and he's really tall. I like that. He's like 6'4", 6'5". They officially restart the scene, and Brendan says hi, and Fenton just enthusiastically says hi.
He's so excited to have a friend. He's so excited to play with somebody. I just wish he knew how to play with somebody.
Yeah, Brendan yells cut. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Fenton has not had the amount of social interactions as Brendan. I think Brendan, because he's an 8-year-old director and he's used to like communicating with his friends on movie stuff.
Yeah.
He's probably a little more used to calm, cool, and collectively talking to other people, whereas Fenton is just a ball of energy.
Yeah, and I used to play pretend all the time. Like especially as a kid, I loved playing Power Rangers, and we would always fight over who was like. I always fought over who was the Red Ranger, and I was like, no, I'm the Red Ranger. Like, and it would get to that point where it's like, okay, I shot you with a blast. It's like, no, I have a shield up. Like, you didn't say you had a shield up. And I just like, I felt that when Fenton's like, no, now I'm like 6'5", though, and I'm more handsome. Yeah, it's like talking to my brother.
Yeah. I vaguely remember something like that growing up with a neighbor, where it's like, yeah, you were playing in the front yard, and it's like, I'm going to shoot you with my laser. It's like, I have laser immunity. And it's like, okay, well, I'll use a fireball. I have a potion that blocks all fireballs. And you're like, oh, I'm going to go home.
That's the best option you got right there.
Yeah. So the next scene, we have Eric and Paula having coffee together, and this is when Eric confesses that it's kind of nice to be hanging out with a neighbor with no kids around.
They're neighbors?
I don't know if they're like directly next door neighbors, but I think they're on the same street.
Okay.
Yeah. I also really liked Eric's coffee cup. I'm not sure if you saw it.
With the alien?
Yeah. It's really
Nice.
cool.
Yeah. It seems so random that him and Paula were hanging out with without the children around. Like, I didn't realize they were friends like that.
Yeah. Well, even though they are, there was still a little bit of awkwardness there.
Right, didn't he hit on Paula at one point?
In the very first episode, he
Yeah.
hits on Paula.
That's what I was expecting here. I thought he was going to be like, hey, do you think that, Brendan wants a little bit more of a masculine figure? And it's like he was trying to insert.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's when I started going, wait a second, he's projecting here.
Yeah, I didn't take that as an insert. I took it more as like trying to find some relatability.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm feeling kind of this way about my daughter and her lack of a female figure around. Are you maybe feeling something similar about your son and lack of a male role model? I didn't really read it as like, I can be that male role model. I took it just
Right.
more as
Yeah.
like
I was just
looking for relatability.
Well, I was used to it from the last time they've interacted. That's what I was I thought that was going to be kind of like a Pepe Le Pew like dynamic between the two, and I'm glad it's not.
Right.
Yeah,
But that's what I expected.
right.
I still love that Paulo is like. There's something I've been meaning to tell you too. It's like you make me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, Eric goes on to ask Paula if she's worried about Brendan growing up without a male role model. Paula flat out says no. Eric goes on to say that it's funny. Kids are affected in ways that are so subtle that we don't even know. And Paula even asks, how do you know that? And Eric immediately says, I don't know.
See, that's part of the reason I don't want to have kids because like literally everything.
Yeah. Especially, like, when they're that young, like, they retain so much memories, and, like, it's locked in.
Yeah,
It's scary.
Imagine if your dad said like, "Hey, you're acting in a way that I'm not sure about. Maybe I should like give you something to do and force you to do something that maybe acts a different way. Maybe that might affect him."
Yeah, a little bit. It might.
Well, I think, again, Paula's a little uncomfortable, so she tells Eric, slow down. And Eric confesses it's probably the coffee. And goes on to say he hasn't had coffee like that since the 60s.
What does that mean?
I don't know if it was like a drug reference thing, like, oh, in the 60s, we had some pretty wild coffee.
Oh, when, like, there was, like, alcohol in the coffee, or?
I don't know.
I think it was
Alcohol?
just a lot strong.
You think that kind of nose candy? That kind of 60s?
60s was wild.
Whenever I think 60s drugs, I always just think weed, but maybe that's just my naivety.
When I think about 60s drugs, I think about affordable living.
My mom told me that they paid $150 for their DJ at their wedding.
We had to pay $150 to talk to a DJ about it. Just kidding, probably.
Oh, God. To be married in the 80s.
Now, we are at a dinner table. We have Brendan Fenton and Trudy Muley. Fenton yells to his mom that him and Brendan made a movie, and he's the hero, and it was really good, and they're going to show it after dinner. Brendan claims it's not ready and not very good, and Fenton literally pushes his head down to says, no, it's great, he's the hero, and he looks great on video film.
I used to the first time they mentioned it and said video film, I was like, sure, say it, whatever. And then the way that like Brendan keeps getting irritated about it makes me irritated every time I hear it now.
Video film is a running gag that irritates Brendan, and another one that I even think happened in this episode is characters will like every 25th time they say Brendan, they'll say Brandon. And I'm pretty sure when Fenton was talking to Brendan at the beginning after soccer practice, I think he slipped a Brandon in there too.
Did he? I didn't even notice. Oh, my God.
But yeah, calling Brendan Brandon and video film are two like kind of running little bits. Brendan asks if someone could pass and we pull back to reveal that there is nothing else on the table. Trudy asks Brendan if he likes his food, and Brendan says he does. But immediately, Fenton gets in his face, and he's like, it doesn't look like he likes it. He barely touched it. Brendan is like, no, it's good. He takes a huge bite, and he's like, what do you guys call this? And Fenton excitedly is like, rice.
I thought it was a marshmallow. It looked just like a pile of sticky white substance.
I thought it was just a plate of mashed potatoes.
I could get down with that.
Absolutely.
I could just eat a plate of mashed potatoes. It's fine.
Oh, rice is nice. But it's just a grain.
I'm wild rice.
Wild rice. Wild rice. Brendan asks what flavor of rice, and Fenton again excitedly yells, rice flavored. We pull back and we get a shot of them silently eating. I just made like a note. It's wild to me. The size of their dinner table for 2 people, now 3 because they have a guest. That dinner table had 9 seats.
Which makes you wonder why.
Yeah.
Personally, as someone who likes to have more people around, I would want a table or like a car or something that can seat more people. And I feel like they want more people in their life, but they don't know how to keep more people in their life.
I'd like to think that he had 8 brothers and sisters at one point, and then they got divorced, and all the other kids wanted to live with Dad because they didn't want to live with Fenton and Mom.
That is some headcanon I can get behind.
I'll
that
agree
makes
with
so
that.
much sense to me.
I agree with that. They're like, these guys suck.
Yeah.
Like, they had to be like, okay, do you guys want to live with Mom or Dad? And they're like, Fenton, you choose first.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to live with Mom. And they're like, Dad. We're all going with Dad.
Just as they're leaving, like Fenn's mom's like, take me with you.
Poor Fenton's mom.
Well, we cut back to the fairy princess meeting, and Miss Lady calls it a sales meeting and then proceeds to play a video I think we're also going to play.
Welcome, my little fairy princesses, to the FPC, the Fairy
FPC.
Princess Corporation. If you're watching this, and congratulations, you are a fairy princess. That means that you are pretty and little and sweet. But that also means that you're responsible for productivity.
What the crap?
Sales
crap?
productivity. I know what you're saying. Well, I'll tell you what you'll be selling. The FPC collection, including the FPC Fairy Hair Princess Kit, the Fairy Brella, a lightweight, fully functional rainbow, and finally, our big seller, the FPC Fairy Cloth, a beautiful multicolored tablecloth.
Well, girls, are we getting excited yet? Yeah! Good, because tomorrow
They turn into animals.
show you your little fairy hearts out. Yeah!
And remember, plainclothes FPC members will be phantom shopping and monitoring your productivity. And we stand by our 3 strikes you're out bad sales punishment technique. Talk the talk, little fairies, and good luck. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Ghost.
Right around there that was when I wrote in my notes, this is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Fairy Princess Corporation is what the C stands for.
When that happened, my eyes were like, no, why? No, this is my literal nightmare.
The fact that they nailed this shit so much in 2002. Are you trying to see what it said underneath?
Yeah.
I took a screenshot. I have it right here. There's a second where it has a picture of a little girl and it says you before and then you after. Underneath, for a split second, it says the FPC generic girl is not actually you, but a representation of adolescent girls in a simplistic doodle format.
Ah. Well. Yeah, this...
Corporate video?
Yeah, it was just, I mean, I was like, when this started, especially when it turns into that, like, devil voice, I was, like, locked in. I was like, oh, hell yeah, season 3. I'm here for it.
This hits so much more 20 years later.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then it makes me really think about when I was a Cub Scout, and I'm sure when you were a Girl Scout, of like, oh, no, I forgot. Yeah, popcorn, like cookies. Just we were selling shit.
Absolutely. And where was this money going?
Dude.
I don't know.
I hate this. I hate it so fucking bad. Like, let me out. Let me out.
And I love how it's all like, you're pretty, little, and cute, which means you get to sell things for us.
Which means you're also responsible for productivity.
Oh,
And I
and
love that Melissa's like, what the
What
sales productivity?
when they're like, oh, also don't forget, there's people out there who was in a disguise and they're keeping
Bro.
track. I was,
Oh. Have any of you worked retail where there were secret shoppers?
yeah, I worked at.
That fucking shit drove me nuts, dude.
My mom was a secret shopper.
Where's the pitchforks?
I don't know.
Genuinely, if I was a secret shopper, unless like it was god awful, sir, I would just be like, they were great. They were great. Don't punish them, please.
Yeah.
Like, dude, secret shop. I fucking hated that shit so much.
I think my mom purely did it for like the free stuff that you get
Yeah.
if you're a secret shopper.
I worked at a fast food restaurant, but like I was right across the street from like that Tinley Park convention center, or whatever the fuck it was. And so concerts would come in and like we'd get packed. And I remember at one point it was a One Direction concert.
Damn.
And our like the fast food It was Arby's. The fast food restaurant just blew up. Like, we were going, it was so fucking wild, inside and out. And I was just trying my best. I was in charge of bathrooms, making sure it's all kept up. And we got fucked. And the bathrooms were fucked. And at one point, there was a secret shopper that came and chose that day. And I got like just chewed out. Like, incredibly chewed out. I work at a fast food, and I got chewed out because a secret shopper came in and said, like, oh, it was horrible. It was terrible. Oh, I hate this shit. I hate it so much.
That's crazy.
That's a war crime in my book. That I hate that secret shopper bullshit.
It is. It's psychological warfare.
Absolutely.
Is what it is. Because they would have, secret shopper's coming in today or tomorrow. Fuck does that mean?
I suddenly am sick for today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, after that brilliant corporate video, we are back at Fenton's. Fenton and Brendan are playing a board game. Fenton obviously rolls a 7, and he's like, I got a 9. And when Brendan calls him out, he flicks the dice, and he's like, well, guess we'll never know. And then goes on to explain he won 14 games in a row. And Brendan is really bad. Brendan's like, well, at least you don't gloat. Fenton says, let's play again. And Brendan says, no, he's not feeling it. He suggests they watch some TV, and Fenton says, yeah, right. I love this. Fenton says, no TV, Mom says. And Brendan says, what?
Like, legitimately, though.
And then Fenton suggests they do something with their hair. And Brendan says, what? And that's when Trudy walks in and says, okay, boys, 6:30, time for bed.
Fucking 6:30 bedtime.
And Brendan says, what?
I would feel like I was getting punked. I really would.
Well, that's when Fenton comes in and says, okay, Brendan, let's go put on our pajamas. And for like the 9th time, Brendan says, what?
I thought the bit was going to continue when they go to his bedroom because he kept saying, I don't know. So I thought he was going to be like, I don't know, over and over again.
Well, we cut back to Melissa, and she's having a meeting with Miss Lady working on her sales exercises. Miss Lady asked Melissa to sell her the fairy cloth, and Melissa's first attempt with Miss Lady is Miss Lady just saying no. And Melissa kind of concedes and says, okay. And Miss Lady tells her, no, the first rule, we don't take no for an answer. This gives me that, like, door-to-door salesman grind set of, like, no, we don't care if they have a no soliciting sign. We don't care if they're not interested. No, you tell them their interest. That mentality, I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
And anytime I did work retail and they're like, no, you got to get those emails and get them to sign up for that. I'm just like, nah, dog.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
I have a very 3 strikes. Like, if you ask for my email when I'm checking out and I say no, if you ask 2 more times, like, I will just leave the stuff there and be like, I'm good then.
Yeah.
I worked at, should I say the store?
Completely up to you.
I worked at a store that rhymes with moles, and they tell you have to ask for them to sign up for their credit card 3 times every single time. I would ask once because fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna act like these people aren't actually humans, and they're just like, no means no. That's what I learned in life. But I don't know.
Just the tactic of, like, try to sell me this thing, and then you just sit there and say no over and over. Like, there is no correct answer. They just want you to try and figure out the correct answer, but there is no correct answer. So how you're supposed? It makes me so, like, it's funny, right? It's the same thing when Mr. whatever the fuck his name is, Lindenson, comes on screen. It's like, oh, it's funny, but it's like, that person exists. I've met them. I hate them.
Yep.
Get them out of here.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the exercise goes back and forth quite a few times, and every time it ends with eventually Melissa kind of conceding and being like, okay. Even at one point, Miss Lady is like, I will call the cops on you. And Melissa's like, okay, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, we don't. So what if they say they're going to call the cops? How old are you? 8? They're not going to do anything to you.
Yeah.
They're not even going to touch you.
Which is exactly why they're having children do this.
That means you're pretty, little, and sweet.
Yep.
So Miss Lady says, okay, we're going to try this one more time, and tells Melissa to smile. So Melissa tries one more time to sell the cloth. And again, Miss Lady immediately says no. So we have this very funny, very quick scene where both Brendan and Melissa are trying to contact each other with the walkie-talkies, but they're talking in the same time, complaining about their situations. And then we just see Jason kind of listening to both of them talk simultaneously with a big smile on his face. And that's when Jason gets on and says, I can't come to the walkie-talkie right now, but if you want to leave a message, please do so after all the beeps. And then just proceeds to make a bunch of different beep noises. And I love it. It kind of fades out and you just see Melissa and Brendan, and they're like shaking their fists and like being angry at the walkie-talkie. So that's when we come back from a commercial break. We see Fenton and Brendan lying on the bed together. Fenton asking Brendan.
This part, when it opened back on this image, I was laughing so hard.
He asked Brendan, did you mean it when you say I look good on video film? And Brendan confesses, I don't remember saying that. I love it. Brendan at one point asks if the sheets are plastic, and Fenton is just like, yes, before quickly like moving on.
So that means he pisses the bed, which means he has to now share the bed with Fenton's piss for 2 nights.
I didn't think about that. I was just like, oh, they just don't want to like watch these.
No, I'd be like, I'm sleeping on the floor.
That
100%.
Fenton sucks.
Yeah.
Like, you guys were making fun of me for my worst character pick for the like second season. Fenton sucks.
I'd say he sucks way more now. He's always sucked.
Not to show my hand too much, but yeah, I didn't vote for Fenton as my least favorite in season 2 because I knew he was going to get much worse as the show went on. I have plenty of time to vote for him as the worst. He is. But in season 2, he was way more tolerable.
Yeah.
How do you say that? How do you say in season 2 he was more tolerable? He was such a piece of shit. They made a video about it for his birthday.
Right, but Linda was in more episodes.
That's
being upsetting towards me.
That's fair. That's fair. Just Jesus fucking Christ, man.
So I like this part. At one point, Brendan asks if they can turn the light off or dim it, and he turns it off, and immediately Fenton gets on top of him. He's like, "No, lights on."
Dude, I put sleeping in bed with Fenton is a torture exercise.
Immediately after that, Fenton yells at Brendan to lower his voice because they don't want to get in trouble. You even hear Brendan be like, "Me lower my voice?" I think Fenton's like, "Be quiet!"
Are we getting into the dream scene now?
Yes, yeah.
This, I feel like, is... I don't know if it shows, like, how their animation has kind of, like, stepped up. I feel like that with the walkie-talkie scene is very much, like, showing how they've progressed. With, like, it kind of being, like, trippy Fenton everywhere. Yeah. And, like, the point I like the most is it's just Jason with Fenton hair.
Yeah, I had that in my notes. That everyone else, it's a bunch of people in Brendan's life, but with Fenton's head instead of theirs. It starts with Coach McGurk. He gets the soccer ball. He moves it down. It's Fenton's head. And it's just one shot of all these people in Brendan's lives with Fenton's head, but then Jason just has Fenton's hair.
Yeah.
So
nightmare, like a literal nightmare, but pink elephants, Winnie the Pooh style, like nightmare.
Well, Brendan wakes up from this nightmare with Fenton yelling, "Good morning," and it's time to wake up because we got to do some chores. Brendan is like, "Why are you doing this to me?"
It's a torture method. Torture method.
So this is when I like, this is one of so many parallels where Brendan is like, "What time is it?" And Fenton's like, "It's 5:30 in the morning." And now we cut to the fairy princesses who are being woken up by Miss Lady at 5:30 in the morning so they can go sell their little fairy hearts out. It ends with Miss Lady yelling at them to get up before I get you up. So it's this parallel where they're both getting up at 5:30 in the morning, and then we have a quick side-by-side scene of Eric and Paula, who are both soundly asleep at 5:30 in the morning, just completely unaware of the tortures they put their children through.
Damn. Brag.
Part of me thinks they did it on purpose at some point to like get some sleep.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, Paula's still got a baby.
Yeah, but she doesn't take care of it.
That's right. She was missing for a whole season.
Yeah.
Well, now we're at the mall with Melissa selling her fairy princess swag. Why don't we just go ahead and play this scene too?
A fairy cloth, please? Miss, would you like to buy a fairy Okay. Please, somebody buy one of these things. Somebody help me out. Buy a fairy cloth. Please, help.
Melissa?
Coach?
What are you wearing?
It's my uniform.
Yikes. What are you doing here? Shouldn't be in a mall by yourself in that outfit.
I'm not alone.
Oh. What are you talking about?
There are people watching me. Please, buy something.
What kind of people?
Excuse me, sir. Would you like to buy a fairy cloth?
You talking to me?
Please buy something, Coach.
I'm not going to play your game, Melissa. But I'll tell you something. I told you so. All right? Chalk that up in the I told you so department.
But, Coach, I never wanted to do this.
Oh, yeah. Cry me a river. I was right and you were wrong. Now you're miserable and that's good. Why am I so satisfied about that?
Coach, please.
What do you want me to do, Melissa, huh? You want me to come in and buy all your stupid fairy princess merchandise? Is that what you want?
Yeah, it would really help me out.
What do you got?
umbrellas and fairy princess cloths.
Give me those wings.
I can't. I'm not allowed to take them off. Coach, please, I'll get in trouble.
So what? Coach wants to wear them. Coach wants to fly away. Yeah, that's why I came to the mall.
Oh, did we have a game today?
Oh, yeah, we lost. Thanks a lot, by the way.
Coach, my dad signed me up, not me.
No, pardon me if I don't believe you, Melissa. Now, you made your bed. Now, you go sleep on it.
You mean sleep in it?
Sleep on it, Melissa. And you tell the fairies I said go to hell. Where they belong!
Coach.
Hey, where's the food court?
Top floor.
I gotta get some spare ribs in me.
I love the part where she's like, "Are you drunk?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's why I'm at the mall."
I love the sign that said Gnomes 40% off.
Yeah.
So a couple quick background catches. Yeah, Melissa is set up across from the gnome store. And for one of the brief where it shows McGurk, there is a gnome in the background. It's
I didn't even see it.
Off to the side. And then, yeah, there's a sign that says all gnomes 40% off.
Damn.
There's a burglar that
I was
came
going
up
to
the
say at
alleyway.
another
Yeah.
point, there's a guy in complete burglar, and he is holding a sack with a dollar sign on it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And he just walked by us in the background. So
Also, did you notice the price of everything at the Fairy Princess?
everything at the
Yeah.
Fairy Princess booth was $6.66.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I really loved Coach when he's like, I want to fly away. Like this.
Don't we all?
Yeah, dude. It feels like he's very jealous of like femininity in it to a point because he's like, give me those wings. And especially earlier, he's like hopscotch and jump rope. Actually, that sounds pretty nice.
He's just jelly.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, we have a quick scene where Melissa pulls out her walkie and calls for Jason, saying she needs help. And Jason says, "Roger that, Melissa. I'm your man." So we have a quick montage of Fenton and Brendan outside in the pouring rain. It looks like Brendan is watering some flowers or grass or something, which in the rain, oof.
Have you guys seen The Lighthouse?
Yes.
You okay? Well, then I'll direct you towards Adele. Just
I'll get going there.
just at this point with Fenton and Brendan, it feels like The Lighthouse. It does, because they're like in the rain and Brendan just slowly losing his mind, and they're arguing, and at one point later on he's just whatever you say, Fenton. They start like yelling at each other and fighting with each other. It's just like The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Well-
That's crazy.
Like I said, in this montage, Brendan is watering something outside in the rain. It cuts to them eating inside, and we hear Fenton say, "Oh boy, rice again." We show them making a movie. Fenton is explaining that he's the hero. Brendan is the dirty villain. Brendan is just, his nose is red. He's over it. He says Brendan is stupid and I'm smart. Brendan is fat and has bad skin. I'm thin with small pores. And it finishes off by Brendan saying, "Okay, yeah, you're wonderful." And Fenton says, yeah, and you're horrible. That horrible gets echoed by Miss Lady as we see her talking to Melissa about her sales, saying that they are horrible. Miss Lady asks Melissa if she even tried it. Melissa just straight up says, "I don't know." Miss Lady says she wants to see them work on this together. They'll do it all night if they have to. And that's when Melissa asks what time it is, and Miss Lady says 6:30. That 6:30 is echoed by Trudy Muley telling them, Fenton and Brendan, it's 6:30, time for bed.
This is where I wrote in my notes, I understand why McGurk and Fenton's mom didn't work out. That is insane.
She tells him, get a lot of rest because tomorrow we finish what we didn't finish today. Brendan looks defeated. Mrs. Muley says nighty-night, and Fenton says good night, and then screams to Brendan to say nighty-night to Mommy. He keeps screaming at Brendan to say nighty-night instead. I like the first one. Brendan's like, yep, see ya.
He's so done. Like, he's such a broken man.
Yeah.
Like, after he came in from the rain and he was just like the dark circles and the wet, and then he's just like playing with his food, and it just, yeah, whatever you say. Yeah. And literally just reminds me of The Lighthouse. Was like, dog, you're a dog. You'll do it.
Oh, he broke him.
Tells him, say nighty-night. Pokes him, says, sleep well, sleep tight. Brendan, tell me sleep tight. So you too. Brendan's just over it. So we have a quick scene. Brendan locks himself in a closet to make a confession tape that if they find him, they'll know how he died. He confesses that he hates this place. He hates Fenton. He hates his mother. He worked all day in the yard and fears that these are his last days, but he had a good life. He ended up saying, that's all for now. I am going to use the bathroom.
I made a similar video the other day.
You using the bathroom?
Brendan says he's going to use the bathroom, and that's where we cut back to Melissa and Miss Lady. Miss Lady wants to do one more selling exercise with Melissa, but first Melissa says she has to use the bathroom. So again, like this echoing back and forth as we cut in between scenes, like really, really well done. So we see Melissa walk into, I think it's his kitchen. She has a can of hairspray she shakes and puts in the microwave. She starts the microwave, and we cut to a quick scene of Brendan going into the bathroom at the Muley's house. He walks in with his camera kind of tucked under his arm. We cut back to Melissa as the microwave hits 0. She's walking down the hallway. We see the explosion behind her. The music swells. We cut back to Brendan, who has encountered a naked Mrs. Muley in the bathroom. Brendan screams, which alerts Fenton, who comes in and immediately yells at Brendan. So now we cut back to Melissa. She's opening her fairy princess umbrella and walks past just in time as the sprinklers start pouring water. She runs out as Miss Lady runs into the break room with a fire extinguisher. So then we cut back to Brendan and Fenton. Brendan claims he didn't do anything, and Fenton starts choking Brendan. They tumble down the stairs. We cut back to Melissa. She pulls out a series of fairy cloths all tied together. She uses this as a rope to climb out the window. We cut back to Fenton and Brendan rolling around fighting. Brendan runs out of the Muley's house. Simultaneously, Melissa escapes the fairy princesses. So we get a side-by-side of them running down the street until ultimately they run into each other.
Small town.
Well, they fall down on the ground, and we see Jason is sitting in between them looking at his watch. Like a knight in shining armor on a steed approaches Coach McGurk in his reckless mobile.
I love it so much.
I love how this scene just like came together in the most random, unexpected way. Like Jason just being there out of the blue.
It really makes it seem like this was like Jason's plan all along, but like how would he know that McGurk was going to be there at that time? They don't even know each other.
No.
I feel like he called him. Like I feel like that's what it is. He's like, I got a guy, don't worry. Because Melissa's like, can you do this? He's like, I'm your man, and he like facilitated the whole plan.
Right, because it would be wild if he's like, yeah, I'm your man, and then the whole plan is I'll just meet where you guys will inevitably run into each other. And we'll hope some alcoholic soccer coach shows up to give us a ride.
If that was his thinking, I would not be surprised that that's the way that Jason was thinking.
Yeah.
It could be.
Also, just the way that Melissa was walking down the hallway, it felt like it was about to be a TikTok edit where it's like, like as the explosion goes.
That was such a badass moment.
Yeah.
This is such a good episode for Melissa.
So that scene was done by Damon Wong, who is like a fucking rock star of the animation department. I really hope if I get an opportunity to talk to Damon, we could talk about this scene alone for like an hour and a half. It is so well done. It has references to simultaneously Desperado, where there's a character in Desperado where he walks and like his face is always just perfectly covered in that shadow, kind of like how Melissa's face was. And then simultaneously a reference with Brendan and Mrs. Muley of like The Graduate, of him walking in on her. We see the leg. It's just so well done. The cutting back and forth. If you notice, everything Melissa uses to escape the fairy princesses, every single thing is stuff that they have talked about the fairy princesses sell. The hairspray was from the fairy princess hair kit. She uses the umbrella for the sprinklers. She has the fairy princess cloth that she ties together as a rope to get down. I mean, they set those items up. They showed those items, and that's what Melissa uses to escape. It was Chekhov's gun, but it was Chekhov's umbrella, hairspray, and cloth.
Like perfect for the plot. Like every little thing wasn't wasted. It was used correctly. And you were talking about references when Brendan was inside of the closet, like the Blair Witch
Project.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I love the show be like throwing these references in here. We get it or we don't, but it's like all about movies and cinema. And that was such a cinematic. That was probably the most cinematic moment of the entire show that I've seen.
Up to this point, 110%, yes, the most cinematic. And that's what David told me. He said if they have a very cinematic scene, that went to Damon Wong, and David would try to help out when he can. But I mean, dude, that's Damon Wong. That dude is just like a animation rock star. That scene, I think that montage just stamps it 100%. Like, and this is the season they're like, Damon, do it. Go for it.
I don't want to also throw it back to the lighthouse, but when the second they started falling down the stairs, I was like, that was the lighthouse. They killed each other.
They referenced it years before the movie came out.
Robert Eggers was like, I saw this episode of Home Movies.
That's funny. One of the things I do point out in commentary, and I love when McGurk is driving away, the lighting effects on his taillights.
Oh, yeah.
There's like an effect of them. It's so well done. When he does the donuts, the shadows are like moving and growing with his headlight. So well done. It's so well done.
Can we see the bumper stickers on the car? Because there's bumper stickers. I never noticed
Let me
it.
see.
Okay.
All right.
These are good.
He has his license plate is reckless.
Rehab is for quitters.
Yeah. I see that one. Then he's got the classic lady mud flaps too.
And then he has the rehab is for quitters.
Over that is a bumper sticker that says Yankees suck, but it's covered up.
Does it say suck or sucks? Okay.
Yeah.
The way that it's covered up, it makes me think it might say shake as well.
Oh yeah, no, I see sucks. I see suck exclamation mark.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
Which honestly, they're in Boston. That would make a lot of sense to have a Yankees suck.
So then is it in Florida or is it in Boston?
Well, no, I'm saying like where they animated it,
I
edited
see.
And stuff like that was in the Boston.
That's
area,
fair.
So.
Also, the mud flap
Lady.
lady thing has a bunch of lipstick stains all over it. So
Interesting.
Yeah, his muffler's hanging down.
yeah, I believe we have an overhead shot of it as well. If you could get that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the Phoenix.
Yeah, the bird on the hood.
Okay, that's dope.
Yeah, Jason has a look on his face like, I did this.
This is me, baby.
Maybe he's a secret genius. I don't know.
Yeah. And then real quick, I wanted to catch another thing too. Can you resume play from here? The name of the diner.
Wait. There's another bumper sticker. We can't see it.
How do you know then?
Well,
Good
I
question.
saw it. A bunch of parking tickets too. It says horn.
Broken.
Look for finger.
Watch for finger.
That's funny.
Horn broken. Watch for finger.
That's a good one.
You
What do you
need that bumper sticker, Tim.
What are all these? Do you think these are like tickets or?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of tickets.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Wow. Reckless.
Nice.
That's
All right.
fun.
And then go ahead and hit play. I want to see the name of the diner.
Sunny Side Up Diner.
Sunny Side Up Diner. Okay.
If you wouldn't mind, keep playing. There's also a maple syrup.
Oh, it's called the Jersey Turnpike maple syrup.
Thanks for
Okay,
listening.
there it is. Natural.
Quotes.
Natural.
Jersey Turnpike natural syrup. Okay. So now we're at the Sunny Side Up Diner. It's Jason, Coach, Brendan, Melissa. Melissa's thanking Jason for the escape plan, and Jason says, no problemo, baby. Brendan tells Coach he can't stop thinking about it, that he went through a life-changing event, and Coach tells Brendan, yeah, seeing a naked woman is an amazing thing. Melissa points out that it was Fenton's mom, and Coach and Brendan are both like, so? Melissa gives up. Yeah, that's when Melissa's pouring the syrup on her pancakes. I believe it's Jersey Turnpike, and then what it is in quotes, natural.
Yeah.
Natural.
What's it made of then?
Jersey Turnpike.
Oh.
The whole yeah, he did see a naked woman, and that did scar him. But I feel like just the whole trip with Fenton, the whole slumber party is like a very scarring event in general. So I feel.
Are they acting like he was scarred though by seeing Fenton's mom? I feel like everybody's like, "Hey, buddy,
Yeah,
good
McGurk
for
is.
you."
Yeah, that's what McGurk has done. Yes,
Yes.
That's the man he is.
Well, and honestly, Paula does it.
Ooh, we can get
comes-
into that
yeah.
when the scene comes.
Oh,
I
yes.
saw Adele writing a lot. Jason exclaimed through the walkie-talkie, he's just happy that everyone is safe. And in another one of those moments of realization that Jason and Coach don't really interact, Coach tells Brendan to, quote, make this kid stop talking through that thing, driving home the fact that Coach does not know Jason's name.
I did write that down. Is this the first time McGurk and Jason meet?
I think it's their first,
They met it at the Fenton's party.
but it was just Coach being like, Melissa, who's that? What's that kid's name?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
And
they
that's
didn't
when he showed back
initially-
up.
Yeah, they didn't initially know.
So I think this is time they're actually like interacting with each other.
I think so we keep talking about like why was Jason not on the soccer team and why is he in a different grade? I think it's because they were trying to keep McGurk and Jason apart for so long.
Honestly, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Okay, so that's when Jason, through the walkie-talkie, tells Brendan to make this guy kiss my ass and put on some deodorant because of the stink. So yeah, in front of Jason is like an ice cream sundae and a plate with just a fish on it. So we're showing Jason and Melissa, and we hear a loud crash through the walkie-talkie. We cut back. Coach is chugging a beer. Jason has the ice cream sundae on his head, and the broken walkie-talkie is sitting on the counter. And that's when Jason says, "Over and out."
So he hit a child.
He put the ice cream on his head, broke the walkie-talkie, is kind of like,
Yeah. Hey!
I'm watching you. So now we're at, I don't know if it's soccer practice or a game. Eric is apologizing to Melissa about the whole fairy princess thing. Melissa says someday she'll probably be able to forgive him, but for now he is on probation. Eric says he feels particularly guilty about questioning Melissa's masculinity. She said the funny thing is that Brendan is probably the most positive female influence in his life. I mean, look at the way he runs.
And he just like keeps running on and off screen.
Yeah.
I know it was meant as like a dig, but like I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
So now we have Brendan talking to Paula, saying that she is in so much trouble that he can't even say words in a sentence that would sound correctly. Good.
Honestly, valid, very valid.
Paula apologizes again and says, "Hey, at least you got to see a naked lady."
All right. So nobody in this episode cares about what Fenton's mom feels about the situation. And I thought, oh, Paula would understand. It's like if Jason walked in on Paula. Paula must have some empathy for this poor woman. And no, Paula is giving boy mom energy by being like, at least you got to see a naked lady. No, Paula.
Yeah.
No, Paula. Paula, no. Paula missed the mark multiple times this episode. First, forcing him to stay at Fenton's, and now not being able to take this moment to teach her son basic human respect. And that's just Paula gets marks taken off for me today.
My whole thing with this is like I believe Brendan fully did not want to see that. Like it was a clear accident. He's clearly traumatized, and he's angry with Paula for putting him through this.
Yeah.
And it ended with such like the worst possible thing that an 8-year-old can see or deal with, and she's just like, that was good, right? And he's like,
Paula, you disappointed me today.
This whole episode has been really good. This last, 5 minutes or 2 minutes, maybe even 30 seconds, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
The ending is a doozy.
Right. Well, Brendan points out that Fenton is now more popular because of it, too. And that's when we cut to Walter and Perry begging Fenton to spend the night at his mom's house. They said maybe we'll see something neat, like a naked person. It ends with Fenton running away, saying, "Shut up and leave me alone." The ref blows a whistle and says there's too many players on the field and asks where the coach is. And that's where we get the final scene of Coach McGurk putting Brendan's tape in his VCR, seeing a naked Fenton's mom, and saying, "Holy sh-." And then we cut to the credits for Season 3, Episode 1, Shore Leave.
We're not done yet.
But we have audio over the credits of Coach trying to buy a domain name for FentonsNakedMom.com. Ken Adelberg is obviously the one on the other end. He informs him that that name is already taken. So Coach suggests middleagednakedmom.com. And Ken says that one's taken too, so you're going to have to go .org. Fade out.
When I tell you I feel bad for Fenton's mom on a deep spiritual level, holy shit, you better fucking believe me. Because nobody gives a fuck about Fenton's mom when it comes to her child being abusive, when it comes to her being a single mother, when it comes to her apparently having multiple images of herself naked on the internet since the domain is gone.
I didn't even think about that.
We can't assume that that's Fenton's.
In this small world of home movies, I doubt that there's another Fenton's mom on the internet.
I was just blown away that Ken Adelberg came out of nowhere. and then had to express exactly what you were saying. And it's just McGurk literally like, oh yeah, I found this footage of this woman naked. I'm going to put it online.
Wow. For everyone to see, including Fenton's mom, because she also has access to the internet.
That's what I'm talking about, like this last 30 seconds of like McGurk's like, I want to see this woman naked because he clearly can't handle a real woman naked in front of him, you know. Sorry, not sorry.
Don't be.
But that last 30 seconds, because it was just like, yeah, I'm enjoying this nice Sunday, and then you get to the bottom, and it's just like, oh, there's a rock in here? What the fuck? Oh, man. Overall, good episode. I really liked the episode. That last, 25 seconds, I was like, what? Where the fuck am I?
Yeah, it took a sharp turn. Yeah, that's crazy. Do we want to give grades?
Oh, yeah, we can do grades. Do we, keeping up with trends, do we want to do a Jason grade first?
So obviously Jason did a phenomenal job this episode. He made me laugh the entire time. He wasn't the worst person. Even his annoyances, bits towards his friends of, oh yeah, you guys can't talk until after the beeps, and he just kept going on. Like that just funny bits, just being a little bit of a rascal type guy. So I can't dock him for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see more of what his plan was because even McGurk says what are you guys doing here? That made me feel like Jason didn't contact McGurk. He just kind of sat in the road and waited for him to show up. I don't know. I would have liked to see more of Jason's influence in this episode, but that I can't dock him for that. It was a good Jason episode.
The fact that you want to see more Jason in an episode to see the plot,
man. I want to know what he did because otherwise he just sat in the middle of the street.
I do want to. I am
like he timed it to the
He was
second.
looking at his
watch.
Yeah. I do want to know the extent of his plan. If he somehow contacted McGurk and was like, hey, drive by this street at 6:35.
I wonder if the plan was just to save Melissa because she seemed to have it planned out exactly what she was going to do. So in my mind, her and Jason had a little conversation over the walkie-talkie, and he was just planning on picking up Melissa, but Brendan just happened to also run into them, so he saved both.
Unless he planned on...
saving both?
No, on Brendan seeing Fenton's mom naked. Because we don't know the extent of his plan. That could have been part of it.
He was like, hey, Fenton's mom, go stand in the bathroom naked for a half an hour.
Could have been. We don't know. We're unaware.
We'll never know. Did you give him a grade?
I did. A, sorry.
Nice.
Easy A. Easy A.
Nice. We love an A for Jason.
Yeah, love to see it. Now, shall we do episode grades?
Yeah. Should I go?
If you'd like to, yeah.
I really enjoyed this episode. I feel like, oh my God, it was such a good Melissa episode. I think this is my favorite Melissa episode so far because it's she's forced into this world that she wants no part of, and then she exits in the most badass way, essentially saying, fuck you to capitalism, which we all should be doing.
Yeah.
And it's just, Fenton was really annoying, which he is really good at, and unfortunately... Melissa's badassery was overshadowed by the sexualization of Fenton's mom. But art is supposed to invoke emotion, even if it is anger. So that I give an S tier to this episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I really enjoyed this episode.
I didn't expect us to be handing out S tiers until we did that bonus episode.
Sorry.
But no, I am fully on board with that. Because when she'd fucking put that hairspray in the microwave, I was like, let's fucking go.
Yes.
Because
the music, Brendan Small is playing that almost like flamenco, oh, it's perfectly done. And that matches up with Desperado so well.
Desperado.
I was just so... because for me, it's you could just sneak out, right? They didn't have to do the explosion. She could just walk out. But I do at some point, you just experienced a lot of trauma. You experienced of these people trying to exploit you.
Yeah, she didn't want to leave. She wanted to burn that bitch to the ground.
Yes.
And I am right there fucking with her. I even wrote down fairy princess anarchy. Let's fucking go. FPA. Fuck that noise. Holy shit. The explosion went boom. Get the fuck out of it. The whole thing. I really enjoyed it. I want to give it a grade. However, there is a caveat to this. Kind of. A+. Easy A+. But I want to point out something. They showed Miss Lady there, right? She showed her looking at the Reckless Mobile, but it wasn't the final image we saw there. So if she never shows up again, I'm fine. That was just a little tiny tease. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. That doesn't need to be the final image, because if she never comes back, I'm going to hate the episode. Just to point out a little bit of why
I'm going to point out that I told myself that I am no longer telling Marson when characters are not coming back. I'm going to let everything play out as it does. I have no comment whether Miss Lady comes back or not.
And I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Because they didn't lean on it as the entire episode as her being this dynamic character and then ending on it. Nope, we had a Ken Adelberg at the end going, hey, buddy, no, you got to take the org.
Save some for me.
Exactly. Let's fucking go. A+.
A+, yeah. All right. I have a little confession to make. I have an envelope taped to the ceiling here. I'm pulling down. I genuinely, when we started this podcast, and especially when we said we're doing the grading systems, I thought this episode was going to be my first S-tier episode. And then we had the episode with my brother, History, which fucking love that episode because it meant so much to my brother and I, and he was here to record the episode with us. That ended up being my first S-tier episode. But I genuinely thought like this was the one. This... To start season 3 like this, it makes so much sense to me. It makes so much sense. This episode was so great. The Melissa montage with her getting out of the fairy princesses and Brendan seeing Fenton, all that stuff. It was so cinematically done. And I genuinely, when Adele and I finished watching this episode yesterday, and I think it was today, you're like, oh, I have some opinions about the end of that episode. I was like, oh no. Oh no! Like I'm gonna give this an S. I'm gonna give this an S.
I was doing a little trickery because I was like, I have a lot of things to say about this episode, and Tim's like, oh, you hated it, and I was like, I didn't say that. You'll have to find out during the podcast.
You'll have to listen to the podcast in order to find out. I stand by my S. I completely understand like where you're coming from. That did not age well as some of the other aspects of this episode, especially like the corporate move. You know, nowadays it's like, brother, that's some revenge shit. Like you can't. That's that's illegal.
But also, such is fucking life, dude. You can't let the sexualization of Fenton's mom ruin the end of capitalism for Melissa. You know what I mean?
But you have to acknowledge it.
You have to acknowledge it, and you have to work on yourself after you acknowledge it.
It's the same thing we go with McGurk. Like at this point, we're 2 seasons in. We're working on the 3rd season. McGurk is an S-tier character. I realize that. We all realize that. But he's also an F-tier piece of shit.
He's an F-tier person.
Yeah.
And an S-tier character. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
So I will give this episode first of probably many season 3 S-tier episodes.
So you gave it an A.
I gave it an A+. I want to see how I feel because recency bias is a real thing. I want to feel because there's definitely episodes where I gave it an A+, where I was like, if I think about it, maybe it doesn't deserve that necessarily. But I want to get to when we do our rating system bonus episodes where we do the S-tier like ratings and whatnot to start handing out my S-tiers because. But I will give A+. This is just such a good episode, especially because I've wanted a Melissa episode.
Yes.
I've wanted to see where she is. I wanted to see just like who she is as a character, and like this proves to me who Melissa is, and you know what? Same, sister. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm a Melissa stan.
Yeah. I knew this episode was on the horizon. I knew that we were all big fans of Melissa. So I was just like so excited for you guys to be able to. I'm like, yes, one of the first like truly badass Melissa scenes. Like I could not wait. So
I mean, when I was re-listening to the interview the other day at work, like David St. Angelo said, like something season 3 fairy princess, and that's when I ran to the other side. I was like, no, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, man, what a way to start a season.
Yeah,
this was such a good episode. So is there anything else we want to bring up before we put a little bow on this episode?
Man, imagine if Thacker was here. That could have been a good episode.
No. I will say the one thing they said about this episode in commentary was after they made it and it aired and it was very, very positively received. There was a quiet moment of like, oh shit, did we like set the bar too high for this next season? The exact wordage was, did we make this too slick? Did we make it look so good that now this is kind of like the standard of where we need to be? We set the bar, and that's a very high bar.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to share the rest of season 3 with you guys. I think this was a very appropriate first episode, and it really does set the tone for what is to come for season 3. So
I'd like to think of this show as like season 1 was like the baby into like maybe teenage years as far as like quality. Right. And then season 2 is like, oh, you're still kind of awkward in your 20s. This is people thriving in their goddamn 30s, season 3. And you cannot tell me otherwise.
Oh, I'm really...
I will not.
I love that analogy. Yeah. And to quote a tag team professional wrestling that I really like, which is like, we don't just set the bar, we are the bar. I really, I really liked this.
Hell yeah. Well, we're going to do a little abbreviated version. If anyone has any plugs, now is the time to drop them. But if not, that is going to do it for this episode.
Yeah, I do have a plug, actually. Our man Jens, who made the art for this season, really knocked it out of the park. I love Jens so much. He has made so much of the art for projects I've worked on, and he's just an overall amazing person. Just a super kind, down-to-earth dude. When I found out Jens was going to do the art for this season, I knew that he was going to knock it out of the park because he's always done it for every single project. Eldritch Journeys, Puzzle Valley, Doorman. Like he's really helped me out a lot and made some amazing stuff. And just to see the King Kong art, like, I was so happy. Fans of the show, like, we had some options. He gave us a lot of cool options, and honestly, it was hard to kill our darlings with that one, but I'm very happy that the King Kong won out. As for the plugs, Jens is working on a project called Fool's Tales. FoolsTales.com. He's on YouTube and Instagram. I'm going to read out what it is. It says, Fool's Tales was made in the hopes of discovering and connecting with unique creators, sharing their stories, and helping others learn from them and improve their own work. It aims to cover a wide range of topics and mediums, while also offering insight and knowledge beneficial to anyone on their creative journey. Be sure to check out our blog and social media channels for the latest updates. That's Fool's Tales, FOOL''S. Tales. They just released an episode with John Avina of Avina Comics, so it's an interview on there. They'll be posting a lot more, so that's my plug.
That's going to do it for this episode of Rewatching Home Movies. Join us next week for Season 3, Episode 2. Breaking Up is Hard to Do. If you liked what you heard, check out our Linktree at Linktree/RHMpod. There you can like, follow, and subscribe. Send us an email or leave us a 5-star review. I will read 5-star reviews on the podcast. Thanks to Chris Bongat for the use of our theme song, and Jens for the refresh of our logo. On behalf of myself, Tim, and my co-host, Marcin, and Adele, thank you for rewatching home movies with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.